All right, in today's video tutorial, we're going to be learning how to build a sticky header with HTML and CSS and a little bit of JavaScript. So you can see this is what we're going to be building here, the final product where the header animates down from the top with a little bit of animation. If you want to jump right to the good parts, just jump right to the 7-minute mark is where we get into the CSS code. So I hope you like it. Subscribe, thumbs up, share, all that good stuff, and follow along. Started here with just the HTML and CSS. Our HTML is going to be fairly simple. We are just going to start out here. We're going to add first just a header tag, and this is going to contain our header goes here, and then after this header, we're just going to add a little bit of a nav tag. So the nav is going to, of course, probably have some lists or some list items. So we'll just throw a couple in here really quick, like so. We'll say we'll do maybe 3 or 4 of these. And that's probably good for now. We're not going to build in the anchor tags. We'll just put home, about, door, and contact here. And then underneath our nav tag is going to be the main section of the website. So we'll just throw that inside of a main tag right now. And we'll just add some ipsum things started. Now I'm going to turn on here my line wrapping VS Code so you can see that. All right, so this is the basic structure of our HTML. It's not going to really vary much from this, so we'll just kind of stick with this. So you can see the preview over here. We have our header, and then we're going to build our nav, and then a little bit of paragraphs. Maybe we'll wrap this in a paragraph tag, actually. This lorem ipsum, and we'll just add probably 2 of these. So I'm just going to copy this entire paragraph, and we'll paste it down. Okay. Now, let's do a little bit of CSS to flesh out the header and the nav. Again, we're not going to be building out an entire menu. We're just going to kind of get those blocks set so that we can build our little sticky header. So let's jump over into our CSS sheet, and let's go ahead and style a little bit of code for the header. So for the actual header element, let's go ahead and give it a width of 100%. We'll give it a font size, I don't know, 65 pixels or something, just to kind of make it big so you can kind of see the effect here. And we'll say text transform. We're going to set this to uppercase. We'll set a font weight of. Okay, so now that we have that in place, you can see there is the header element there. Maybe that's a little bit big there. I'm going to bump that down. 55 pixels or something. I don't want that to wrap 2 lines. There we go. That works. And now let's go ahead and work on the navigation. So we'll just add a little rule here for our nav tab. Remember, nav is the actual HTML tag. There's an unordered list inside of there. But for the nav, same thing. We're just going to give it a width of 100%, which is the default for block tags anyway. Let's go ahead and give this guy a background color. So we're going to say background color. Salmon color? It is salmon. Let's use salmon. There we go. So there is our nav. And let's go ahead and write a little rule here for our nav UL. So this is the unordered list. We're going to say display as flex so that all of those items now would stack next to one another. We're also going to say list style none so that we don't have those bullets, and we're going to set the margin to 0 and the padding to 0 as well. So something kind of like that will work fine. Let's do the let's go ahead and give this guy some height. So for each of the actual list items, we'll say nav ul li. These guys will just give some padding, I don't know, of 25 pixels or something like that. Okay, so there's your little basic navigation. I'm not going to flesh out anything else, just to kind of illustrate that that's going to be a nav bar. There's going to be a header above the nav bar. Okay, now let's go ahead and just add a little bit here to our content, which is going to be our main. So we'll just throw down here main. I'm going to hit return a few times to kind of bring this up towards the middle. So in our main area, let's go ahead and give this a width of 100% again. The reason why I'm doing this is because some of these HTML5 tags like header, nav, main, they're not blocked by default. So I'm just doing this as kind of a little quick way of doing that. And we'll go ahead and maybe we'll set the color of the font to maybe a light gray. So we'll say, not a light gray, but a dark gray. Maybe like a 333. Okay, so that changed the color there of that font just ever so slightly. And let's go ahead and give it just a background color so we can kind of see that guy sectioned off as well. And we'll say background dash color, and this we'll do as a really light gray, maybe EEE. So that's actually maybe a little bit hard to see on screen, so let's darken that, maybe AAA. There we go. Okay, so you can see there's our main area. Let's give it maybe a little bit of padding just to make it look a bit better. Okay, there we go. So the one thing we also have to do is get rid of the outer margins and borders. We need to add that up on our body tag. So let's create a rule right here at the very top for the body tag. And we're just going to say margin 0, padding 0. And you can see when I save there, that gets rid of those left and right margins that are inside of here. Let's go ahead and just align all the text to center. Whoops. Text dash align. We'll set that to center. Okay, so let's go ahead and now illustrate how to do a sticky header. Now there's kind of two methods of doing this. One of them is actually done with CSS. So let's go ahead and take a look at that little area first. Before we do that, let's change the color of these guys to white so they stand out a little bit better. Okay, and we might as well make those uppercase as well. So we're going to say text dash transform uppercase. So let's do the CSS method first. You'll kind of see the problem here. Now, right now my page doesn't scroll because I've only got a little bit of content right here. So it's not scrolling all the way. So we can take this body and we can set its height to be, actually that's not going to work. Let's just go ahead and add a bunch of content. We'll jump over here to our HTML and we're going to take these paragraphs and just copy and paste 4 or 5 times so that we have a lot of content bigger than our page. So that forces us to, of course, now have a scroll bar, right? So I have to scroll down to get that content down there. In fact, I'm just going to drop in several more so we can really scroll. Okay, so you can see as I'm scrolling the mouse down, of course, my header is not stuck, or the navigation, right? The sticky header is not stuck there. So we want it to stay when we scroll down so that that menu, if you will, is always visible to the user. Okay, so method 1 is we can come over here to our CSS sheet and add a new CSS property that will do this for us. So what I can do here is I can come in and add on my nav element the keyword of position sticky. And then what I have to do is I have to position it. So this is kind of like absolute relative. Well, there's this new one called sticky, and I can say top 0 pixels. Now watch what happens when I come over here and scroll. So as I scroll down, you can see that that automatically sticks to the top of my page when I scroll. That's pretty much it. That's how you use position sticky. I guess my work here is done. But of course, there's other methods of doing this. The problem is that position sticky is not supported in all the browsers 100%. So doing the sticky nav works this way if you're on like a super modern browser, but there's a lot of edge cases. So that's method 1. So method 3 is going to be using JavaScript to add in some classes here. So let's jump over and we're actually going to write a little bit of JavaScript. So let's come over here and we're just going to add this right in our head section. I've got mine collapsed right now. Let's go ahead and open this up. And I'll just grab some style tags and you sort of do it like this. So we're going to create a variable and we're going to call this the main nav. Okay. And that's going to be equal to the element. This is the Jquery code here. You could do this without Jquery as well. Let's see. That's going to be equal to the nav tag. Now, of course, if you were doing this in real life, you would also want to use class names or IDs, not in real life, but in production, rather than just the tag selector, because chances are you might have more than one on your page. So we're going to head and add that. And then let's go ahead and add our we got to add our Jquery initialize function. So I'm just going to copy and paste the code for that. So, okay, so copying and pasting a couple links there. We'll paste in the script, which links out to Jquery. And then I've pasted in the little JavaScript code that is the document ready function that we'll be using. Whoops, I said style here. That's supposed to be script, not style. Of course. Okay, so we can delete this little comment here. Let's just go ahead and refresh to make sure our console.log is working. Whoops, refresh over here. I'm not seeing that output. Oh, it's console.log. Let's just do an alert, because in this little preview I have set up, so we'll just do alert and refresh, and you can see that alert down. Okay, so we know our jQuery is working in JavaScript. So let's go ahead and add the code here. So we're going to say the main nav is equal to the nav element, and then we'll just call this the sticky element, sticky div, or sticky. We'll just say sticky equals sticky. And then we're just going to call our header is going to be equal to the jQuery header. And we're going to set this equal to height. So jQuery is also going to grab the height for us. So maybe it's better to say header something, so we a bit better. Okay, so just declared 3 variables there. This first variable is just set up to our nav. The second one we're just adding is a string for sticky, which we can add. Then the header height, which it's going to automatically measure over here the height of our header so that we know when we've scrolled past it. So that's what those 3 lines of code are doing. And now we can write a little more code here. So this is going to be window, and we're going to set the scroll event. So scroll is going to be set to an anonymous function here. And we're going to write some code in here that says if, so here's we're going to be measuring the heights. So if this dot, this is an event, I guess, called scroll top, is greater than the header height. Okay, so that's our condition right there in the if statement. Oops, missing. There we go. So here's the code we're going to execute in the if statement. We're going to say the navigation, which we call the main nav, dot add class, and we're going to add the class of sticky. Okay, which is going to be, again, you could name this whatever you want. That's just what we're going to call ours. All right. Else, so if that's not true, the else statement is going to work. So main nav dot remove class of sticky. Okay. Whoops, I had an error there. So main nav. All right, now in order to see this work, we need to inspect the element. So we're going to be able to see if that class gets added dynamically or not. So let's go ahead and do that. Now in this little preview, I cannot, it actually doesn't have a web inspector that's very easy to see. So we're going to switch out and just use the actual browser here instead of this little preview. Okay, so now I've just opened this back up in Firefox here, and you can see I've got my web inspector open by just right-clicking and saying inspect element. And what I want you to pay attention to is right here on this nav. Okay, so right now you can see the nav doesn't have any class associated with it. But as I scroll, as soon as that header height moves past that scroll top position, watch right here dynamically as I start to scroll. So right there, see how it switched to nav equals sticky? And then as I scroll back up, that nav equals sticky just disappears. So depending on the scroll position, I'm adding or removing that sticky class. Okay, so that's kind of how that works. And then we're going to go back here and we're going to set up a sticky class. We're going to say dot sticky. There we go. Whoops, sorry, dot sticky. Class of sticky. And then we're going to say position 6. fixed. Okay, so now let's go ahead and refresh over here, and we'll scroll, and you can see that that automatically switches to position fixed as soon as I scroll past. Okay, so we have our basic sort of element working here. You can see how that works. As we scroll, our nav then sticks to the. So the last little piece we're going to do is we're actually going to make that animate down in when we scroll past a certain. So what we need to do is we need to come over to our CSS. We're going to add one more rule here below the sticky. We're just going to call this in view. Now, the general idea is that when we add the sticky class, we're also going to use a CSS transform to slide it off screen. So we're going to use the transform, and we're going to use the translate. And we're going to set this equal to 0, and then negative, I'm just going to do 25 pixels for now so you can still see it to illustrate this. 0, negative 25 pixels. Okay, so watch what happens when I get down here. You can see how it offset that negative 25. Well, what we're going to do is we're actually going to offset it like 200 pixels, so it goes completely out of view, and then we're going to use a CSS transition to slide it back down into 0, 0. So essentially our in view class here is going to be transform translate 0, 0. So we're going to transform from something like negative 200 pixels back down to 0. So it's going to sort of disappear off screen, then slide back down in. So here we're just going to set the transform. So let's go ahead and set the transition. We'll just say all, I don't know, 0.3 seconds, and let's just make this guy ease. Okay, now the last step is we need to add this in view class at a specific point in time. So what happens here in our code is we basically need to add one more if-else statement. So we're going to copy this entire thing, and let's just drop it right below here. So we're going to say if we scroll past the header height, and let's go ahead and wrap this in some parentheses, times 3, let's say. So in other words, when we scroll 3 times the height of the header, then we're going to do this second part. So we're going to add our second class, and I'm just going to do this one as a string directly in view, and then we'll remove that class. Scroll back. So again, if I inspect the element here, you can kind of see what's happening here slowly. So let's pull this over and just take a look. Again, we're watching right here on the nav. So as I start to scroll down, as soon as I hit this point, right somewhere there, whoops, I broke something there. Oh, there's the error. Accident. My header height. I don't know how I did. So if it's less than header height times, there we go. Let's refresh. Try this again. So we're going to slowly scroll down, and right there you can see the class of sticky gets added. So in other words, right now this rule is being applied. It went to position fixed to the top of the page, but then also translated off 200 pixels. So it's invisible at this point. Okay, so then let's keep scrolling down. So as soon as we get 3 times that size that we just barely did, then we're going to add another class. So as we keep scrolling here, again, watch right here on this class of sticky. We'll keep scrolling, and boom, there's our in view class. And you can see the header just slid back down because now we just added this class to it, which translates it back to position 0, 0, which is right at the top with the nice little CSS trend. So pretty slick here. Let's go ahead and refresh. Now we can watch this entire process happen. Okay, so as we scroll down, disappears. And whoops, I need to zoom in a couple clicks. Down. And there it goes. It animates in. And as I scroll up, it disappears and clicks right back. So very, very cool. That's how you can build a sticky header using some CSS tricks and a little bit of JavaScript to calculate some heights. So I hope you liked it. Comment down below, ask any questions, and we will see you in the next one.